Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're moving on to topic C of module 2. And the difference is when we were in topic B, we were adding and subtracting fractions. Now we're going to be moving into adding and subtracting mixed numbers and whole numbers with fractions. So the problems are going to get a little bit more challenging. Okay, so I'm on page 69, but I'm going to do what we're going to do every day is I'm going to quickly jot down my steps. Now the goal is, ladies and gentlemen, not that you remember my steps using my exact words, but the goal is that you're able to say these steps in your own words for the next few months. So your steps for adding and subtracting fractions are: step 1, we set up our problem vertically. Step 2, we find a common denominator. And the nice thing is, the better you get at this, you'll start to see and recognize problems where you're like, oh, I know if it's 4 and 9, my common denominator is going to be this. Or if it's these are my two denominators, it's going to be this. So the more practice you get, it'll be easier. Because remember, we're going to find our least common multiple for that. Okay, step 3 is we're going to add or subtract whatever the problem's asking us. And we're always going to do the fraction first. Now that didn't come up in the last topic, but it's going to come up now. So we're going to do the fraction first. And then sometimes, like with all subtracting, we might need to borrow. So that's going to eventually come up too, borrow if needed. So this is a hard step. Step 4 is we are going to fix greater than 1 fractions. And remember, sometimes people refer to them as improper fractions. So fix greater than 1 fractions, and we do division to do that. We use that in and out. And step 5 is we're going to simplify using our greatest common factor, which is our largest number that they both share that can fit in them. So again, your steps don't have to be exactly word for word. You'll notice as I write them, I kind of change the words, but the idea is the same. So your goal is to have these memorized where you're like, I can do this first, then this, then this, and then this, and then this in your own words. Okay, so on to page 69. Our first thing, again, I notice on page 69 is I now have what we call mixed numbers, and I have whole numbers. So just to put a little note up here, a mixed number is exactly what it sounds like. It's mixed with a whole number and fraction. That's what a mixed number is. So this is called a mixed number. And this is obviously just a whole number. Okay, just a whole number. So number 1 says use the number line to find 1 3/7 plus 2. Okay, so we're not going to use a lot of number lines, but I do want us to get acquainted with them. So what do I notice? Well, first I'm going to look at one whole. I always like to look at the whole. So between 0 and 1 whole, that's 1 whole. What was it cut into? It was cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts. So that tells me that it's already divided into 7ths because there's 7 parts in each whole. And if I looked at this whole, there would be 7 parts, this whole 7 parts, and this whole 7 parts. So they're starting at 1 3/7. Well, that means 1 whole and 3 of the 7 parts. So this would be 1 1/7. That would be 1 2/7. This would be 1 3/7. So that's where they're starting. And they want us to add 2 wholes. Well, it's kind of hard now because the way where I started to add 2 wholes. But if I'm doing it this way, what I could do is I know a whole. What do I know? I know 1 whole equals 7/7. I already know that. So if I go over 7 of these 7ths, I would go over 1 whole. So if I go to, that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. if I go to that one, and I can double check them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I jumped one hole. And then if I do it again, because they want me to add 2 holes, I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would be 2 holes. So I started here and I added 2 holes and I'm ending up right here, which is 3 holes and 1, 2, 3 sevenths, which does make sense in my problem. Because if I had 1 hole and 2 holes, I would get 3 holes. And if I had 3 sevenths and no fraction, I would just get 3 sevenths. Okay, let's look at our next one. My next one says, use the arrow way or number bond to help you make the next whole numbers. Okay, so we're going to just add our way. That's what we're going to do. We're going to add using our steps on the page in front. So I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just going to look at the actual equation. So what do we get? We have 3 2/3 plus 6 5/12. Okay, I want you to pay close attention to how I set that up. I lined up my fractions and I lined up my ones places. And this digit doesn't have any tens or hundreds, but I lined up my fractions and I lined up my ones. That's very important. Okay, so that was step 1. Step 2 is I need to find common denominators for 3 and 12. So if you don't know it, you come over here and you list your multiplication facts. So for 3, I have 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4. Oh, I think I found it because 12 times 1 is 12. So my least common multiple is 12. So I'm going to set up my whole problem. And I'm not going to skip my whole numbers. I'm going to rewrite my whole numbers just like I would have before. If I forget about my whole numbers, sometimes I forget to go back and get them. So I rewrote my whole problem, remember with space in between, remember everything's lined up nicely, and I asked myself, what are my new numerators? So how did this 3 turn into a 12 times 4? How did this 2 turn into, this 2, we're going to use the same thing, so 2 times 4 is 8. How did this 12 turn into a 12 times 1? So I'm going to multiply that by 1. So that is step 2. I found common denominators. Step 3 is I'm going to add or subtract fractions first. So I'm going to do 8 plus 5 is 13 twelfths. 3 plus 6 is 9. So that is what step 3 looks like. Step 4 says correct greater than 1 fractions. So this is a greater than 1 fraction. This is greater than 1 because my numerator is larger than my denominator. So I'm going to use that division, my in and out. So I have 12 outside as my divisor, 13 inside as my dividend. And I'm saying 13 divided by 12 is 1, and 1 group of 12 is 12, so I'm left with 1 left over, which gives me 1 and 1/12. Now this is where people get a little confused. That is what only my fraction equals. That is not my answer. That's what just this equaled. So 13 twelfths equals 1 and 1/12, but I already also had 9 holes. So my answer is actually 9 holes plus this 1 hole, which is 10 and 1/12. So those are both my answers. Remember, that's a really good answer. This is a better answer because I've now corrected it. My final step says to simplify. I can't simplify if there's a 1 there. There's no way that's going to get more simple or smaller. So I'm going to leave it as that. Okay, let's do our next one. I'm going to zoom out a little. My next one says, and I'm going to cross this off, my next equation says I have 2 and 12/15 plus 3 and 1/3. Okay, so again, my fractions are lined up, my ones places are lined up. So that was step 1. Step 2 is I need a common denominator for 15 and 3. So if I don't know it, I can come over here and list my multiples to get my least common multiple. So I always start with the smaller one. 3 times 3, 3 times 2, 3 times 3. I'm sorry, 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4, 3 times 5, and it's going to be 15 because 15 times 1. So I'm going to come over here and set it up. I'm not going to forget to set up my whole numbers. I set up my whole equation. I don't forget my line or my addition sign. I set everything up. I don't take any shortcuts. And then at step 2, I still have to have my numerators. So how did 15 turn into 15? By multiplying by 1. So 12 times 1 is 12. How did 3 turn into 15? Multiplying by 5. So 1 times 5. And that is step 2. So step 3 now says add or subtract, fractions first. So I get 12 plus 5 is 17/15. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, step 4 is I'm going to check for greater than 1 fractions, and this is a greater than 1 fraction. That is a greater than 1 fraction. So I'm going to use my division to help me. So my 15 is my divisor, my 17 is my dividend, and I know that 17 divided by 15 is 1 with 2 left over. So again, that's not my answer. That's just what this equals. 17/15 is equal to 1 2/15, but I already had 5 wholes. So 5 17/15 is equal to 5 1 6 2/15. So those are both correct answers because they're equivalent, but this is good, this is better. And my last step says, can I simplify? I know I can't simplify because the only factors or numbers that fit into 2 are 1 and 2. And if I use 1, it doesn't help. And 2 is not a factor or does not fit into 15. So that's all that I can do. Okay, I want you to try number 4 on your own tonight. So part of your homework is trying number 4 and then making sure you circle and tell me how you felt with the whole assignment. So again, you need to complete number 4 and make sure you tell me how you felt. Have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.